in this episode of The Mind Pump. So, look, in this episode, we talk all about fitness, health, burning body fat, building muscle, looking awesome and feeling awesome. But we also talk about current events and our lives. So for the first 48 minutes, which is the intro portion of this episode, that's what we talked about. Then we got into the fitness questions. Here's what we talked about in the first 48 minutes. We talk about the ChiliPad and how it warms up your bed. It doesn't just cool your bed. It can also warm up your bed on cold nights.
Warmy.
That's right.
Chilly, warmy.
We talked about Adam's lift yesterday, posting it on Instagram, and all the haters. What the hell's wrong with you guys? Leave the old guy alone. Then we talked about old man strength workouts. I talked about how I bought chocolate almonds at Whole Foods, and they were disgusting. I'm not trying to eat a bunch of chocolate.
Just like big chocolate balls.
I want almonds. Now, the almonds that I like the most that are covered in chocolate, lightly coated, are from Skinny Dipped, and we have a discount code for you. So here's what you do. Go to skinnydipped.com. That's SKINNYDIPPED.com/mindpump and use the code mindpump for 20% off. Then we talked about how Netflix has a docuseries on Bill Gates. That guy's an amazing philanthropist. I talked about the running revolution of the 70s and 80s. We talked about overtraining and impulse control. Did you know if you overtrain, you'll actually become more impulsive? I guess you have more one-night stands maybe?
Yeah, a lot more skinny dip.
Then we talked about college football players and their pay in California. I'm going to read the ChiliPad thing here. Ready, Doug? Okay. Yeah. ChiliPad is one of our sponsors. Now, they make these awesome pads you put on your bed. They're not electric. They're powered by water. And they'll cool your bed down or warm it up depending on what you desire. They really do improve your sleep quality. Now, we have a discount for you. If you go to chilitechnology.com/mindpump, so that's CHILI technology.com/mindpump, and use the code that's on the page, you will get a massive discount.
Massive.
Then we get into the fitness portion of this episode. The first question, this person wants to know about lifts that help improve the bench, squat, and deadlift. So what are the other lifts that can contribute to strength gains in those very important lifts? The next question, this person wants to know what we think about Olympic lifts or explosive lifts. What is the role in your program for muscle and strength gains?
They're good, but they're probably not for you.
The third question, this person has a garage without any heat. They live in the Northeast. It gets cold as hell. What are the risks of training in extreme temperatures? So we talk about the risks, but also the benefits of training in extreme temperatures.
It's kind of like Rocky IV, huh, Sal?
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Gosh. And the final question, this person wants to know what our point of view is on private school versus public school. Now, of course, we're fitness professionals, but you probably didn't know that we're experts on every other subject, including,
this one.
including school.
People are going to love this part, Sal.
So we give our opinion on that topic right there. Also, this month, you guys asked for it, you got it. The most popular program we've ever sold, MAPS Anabolic, is 50% off. Now, MAPS Anabolic is the best overall muscle builder, strength builder, and metabolism boosting program that we offer. It's the program that we recommend most people start in. It's an exceptional program.
It's digital testosterone, Sal.
It gives people great results. It's a great metabolism booster. If you're a female and your metabolism is a little slow and maybe because of excessive dieting, MAPS Anabolic, great program to combine with some reverse dieting to get your metabolism to speed up. Anyway, it's 50% off. Here's how you get the discount. Go to mapsred.com, that's MAPSRED.com, and use the code RED50, RED50, no space, for the discount. You know what I forgot? Because we haven't had it for very long. Because it's getting colder now. I know we're in California. People listening are like, fuck you.
Yeah, they totally balk at us.
Hey, look, yesterday it was
real, everybody.
It was like 60 degrees. So... You know what I mean?
No, my house got
that's like
my house got really cold last night. In fact, we had a fire going last night.
Did you? Are you the asshole that makes a fire and
with
has the
windows open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
I think that goes back to childhood shit. We talked about this off air.
It's
I
like
think
you're camping inside.
Who were we with when we were talking about this? Somebody else that grew up like a little, poor. What was it? It was somebody we were talking off air. Oh, I think it was Mark Bell. I think Mark Bell and I were talking about it. I can't remember who it was, but
you just were never allowed to turn on the AC or the heater.
I had the dad who would, if he would set the temperature, in the summertime, it was fucking set at like 79 before the AC came on, right? So with ACs doesn't come on till like 79 degrees. And in the wintertime, it didn't come on till like 58, the heater. You know what I'm saying?
You just wear a coat.
Yeah.
Suffer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I literally, I said, as soon as I got to a place where I was out on my own and I could afford to pay my own bills, that was just something I just agreed with myself. Like, I'm never not going to do what I want. If I want to roll my, I do this with my truck even.
Your house is constantly the perfect temperature.
Yes, however I like it. You know?
Yeah, screw everybody.
Even if that means I want a cool breeze coming in through the window while my fire's rolling.
While you're baking in front of the fire. That's like my grandparents. My grandparents, when we used to go to my grandparents' house, it was you wear your jacket in the house. That was we'd be like, it's cold, no nut. And she'd be like, go put your jacket on. Like,
Did I tell you?
So we'd be all wearing jackets inside the house. You know?
Did I tell you about Katrina's sister came over? Like, I don't know. This was 2-3 weeks ago when the AC was down, and she comes over. This was right in the middle of our heat wave, right? Because that's when my AC was down. And she walks in. She wanted to come in and see Maximus. And it's like 2:00 in the afternoon on a weekday. I don't know why I was home. I happened to be home, I think, for like lunch real quick. And she tells me that she's coming over, and she comes walking in, and she's got a parka thrown over her shoulder, and she comes walking upstairs, and we're saying hi to Maximus, we're talking, and she kind of just throws her jacket over the couch and doesn't say anything, and we're like, yeah, it's like 90 something degrees outside. What's with the parka? Yeah. She's like, oh no, I brought it to come over here, but it's really nice in here today. I don't know why it's so nice.
AC broke.
Yeah, the AC broke.
Normally she's wearing a parka.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny that she's never said anything to me before. You know, she's just been like hella nice about it. You
She's
know,
all wearing snow clothes.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm going over Adam's house. I gotta bring.
If they could invent like an AC unit that just sprayed snow in your house, you would be so happy.
Oh, hey, so listen to this. So last night, I window open, fire goes out, and I still got the windows open. So I wake up this morning at like 6 o'clock, like freezing. And I'm like, oh my God, which I love. I like it to be freezing cold. But I'm like, oh, perfect. It's like 6 in the morning. I'm going to go upstairs and go crawl in bed with Katrina and Maximus. I'm like, we haven't slept together in the same bed since like only when we travel and stuff right now. And so I go up there. And remember I told you guys like the last time we talked about the ChiliPad that Katrina loves to run it for the white noise.
Yeah.
So even though it's not on her side, it's on my side, she'll run it so the baby sleeps great with it. And I forget all about this, dude.
You jump in.
Bro, I screamed like a fucking little girl.
Was it freezing?
Oh, it was. So I go walking upstairs all excited because I was cold from downstairs. Like, oh, it'll be nice and warm in my room. And it was. I walk in the room warm, get right under the sheets. She had that shit running all night long with nobody on it at like 51 degrees.
Yeah.
It was fucking icicles. So I was like, this
Yeah,
sucks.
I forgot that same fact too. It was like freezing, dude. Just crawling in, like, I'm gonna get all snuggly warm.
Oh,
It gets it's so cold.
Icicle.
You get the turtle balls where
Oh.
fruit goes in the shell.
bro,
You know what I mean?
so cold,
Ugh.
so cold. I forget how like powerful that thing is.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the ChiliPad or the Uller, both products from the same
I have the
company.
Uller. I always call it the ChiliPad because I know that was their original product. But I
Yeah,
have
the
Uller.
Uller's got the what is it? The Bluetooth app that allows you to like change the
right.
temperatures throughout the night and all that stuff. But it also warms up. So because it's starting to cool, get cooler, especially in certain parts of the country. I think like Chicago is like 39 or 30 degrees already.
It's always freezing there.
You can
Trust me.
You can set, because here's the thing with sleep quality. There's an ideal temperature, and it is cool. A cool temperature will give you the best sleep. Studies will show that. You have the deepest sleep, the most recuperative sleep, the most it's the least amount of inflammation, the best melatonin production. But it's an ideal temperature. So let's say you're cold as fuck in your house. Mm-hmm. You can set your Uller or your ChiliPad to maintain the temperature. So if it's too hot, it'll cool down. If it's too cold, it'll warm it up. And in some places where it's cold as shit, that's a nice little get in your bed and it's like a little toasty.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to use that when it gets really cold this winter. If I'm sure Katrina's gonna love that,
dude.
That feature.
It's a game changer, and I'm starting to see mattresses come with these things now built in. I think this is a thing now people are demanding. Mm-hmm. Like they want temperature controlled mattresses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
It's a big selling point. They're exploding. I think was it last month that ChiliPad ran out of stock?
Yeah.
They just got such a huge demand that they're all fully stocked now, but they're so popular. I think a lot of people are like, oh, this makes a big deal. Back in the day, you know what people used to do? They used to use
friction.
No.
That's how I got warm. You just rub
what?
your legs together real fast.
What are you doing?
Just saying.
Starting a fire between your
Yeah,
legs?
exactly. You gotta get warm.
No, they used they're called water bottles, but they're not like a water bottle like we know. Do you ever watch the video of Franco Columbo and Pumping Iron blowing up the hot water bottle with his lungs? He's blowing it up and it explodes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? They're like the old
like
school.
rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, old. By the way, that's a very, very dangerous feat of strength. A lot of people don't realize this, but old strongmen back in the day, it was a common act. It was a feat of strength where they would take. They're thick rubber. These thick rubber. They're called water bottles, and to blow them up requires something like the old school ones require. I don't know how many hundreds or 1,000 pounds of pressure.
So what did you use these things for right here?
So that you would fill them up with hot water, and you would put them in your bed to make yourself warm. Yeah, that's what they used to do. Or you would fill them up with ice, or ice water or whatever. They're basically used for temperature, but warm heat is a lot of times what they would use them for. But anyway, it was.
Would it work, or would it just be warm around the bottle?
Well, it's not a ChiliPad, but it's,
yeah, this is like
old tech.
This is like the poor man's ChiliPad.
Yeah, this is old tech, bro. You're talking like turn of the century.
You got like 12 water bottles in your bed.
Yeah,
It's just like
well, no, people would put
it around.
My grandfather used to put it. He used to have them in his bed. He used to tell me stories. He put them by his feet, one by his feet, and then one by his upper body because they didn't have, they had no heater.
I guess.
in the house.
I guess if you had like down sheets, right, and you had it down by your feet, it would kind of warm up the.
They would put him in the bed before going to bed.
Oh, okay.
And then you would go into bed, and then you get in, and the bed would be warm.
I've never seen it. I'd never had a family member that had that. Have
Yeah.
you, Justin? Did you know this?
Yeah. No, I've seen these before. Yeah,
Don't fucking lie. You've
I'm
never seen
serious.
this before.
I have.
Fucking I've never heard you talk about these.
My parents had these.
Really?
Dude. Yeah.
Wow, I feel so out of the loop right now.
Yeah, so they're old. You
This
remember?
is like rich technology,
Old tech,
like,
dude.
Yeah.
No, it's
Very
old.
old, dude.
My family
It's like
couldn't afford
Depression
to-
era shit right here.
It is. You don't remember seeing cartoons where they'd use these things and whatever?
No,
So
I do know that I've seen these guys blow these up and making them explode,
Yes.
but I never really thought about it. Like,
So
what are they
this
for?
is true now. They had to put out a warning because people were attempting to blow these things up because they would see strong men doing it, and it's dangerous because once it starts to expand, it's so strong because it's thick rubber that if it blew the air back into your lungs, people would get ruptured lungs
Yeah.
from trying to do this. So they actually had to put out a warning and said, don't attempt to blow one of these things up. It's dangerous because if the air rushes back in, you could cause yourself some.
Look at you
serious
coming with
problems.
the random facts today.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is
You
cool.
want to know some other old school tech? So speaking of so when I go to Sicily, I see all this shit. I used to see all this stuff when I was like 12 because they were poor, but people here in America were past all this stuff. My grandparents didn't get a phone until I think 1993. So when we would call them,
Like a house phone?
yeah, I didn't have a phone.
Oh, wow.
So in order to call them, maybe 1990, we would schedule a time, and then they'd go to a friend's house, and then we'd call over there, and then they'd give them money.
That's crazy.
They didn't have an indoor bathroom till my dad was, I want to say my dad was 17. Then they had an
The
indoor bathroom.
outhouse and everything all set up outside.
One.
Wow.
Yeah, with 6 kids, one bathroom outside.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you had the chamber pot underneath the bed.
Yeah.
So you get to take a piss in the middle of the night. You just pee in there.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. But so you know what my grandma used to iron clothes? The old school irons were these. They were made out of iron, and you put hot coals in it.
Oh, hot coals.
You put hot
I've
coals
never
in it.
seen that.
Yeah. And
Wow.
then you close it, and then you'd iron clothes, and it'd make fucking smoke and shit. And you'd
Oh, my
That sounds super dangerous. Holy shit.
my shirt is pressed, but I smell like a barbecue.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what they used to do.
That's
Cook a
crazy.
steak on it.
That's
Yeah, dude.
crazy.
I saw you doing some heavy-ish lifts.
Yeah, some almost strong
Well, that's
lifts.
what you put on your story. Yeah.
Don't you love posting a good exercise video and getting people to contribute?
Every time I post, I remember why I don't post so much of exercise stuff. Well, one, I do it every once in a while just so people know that I still lift, right? So they know this fitness guy, he's got an Instagram. We don't have any exercise stuff going.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I'll throw something there. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I still lift weights, right? But it drives me crazy, dude, because there's always some fucking tool on there that wants to come in and like tell me how to fucking lift weights.
Really?
Yeah. And I just
what were you doing? You deadlifted
Every time.
What'd you do that you could get a comment on?
It's always something, dude. You know, oh, your hips are coming.
Your hand position is off by like 45 degrees.
Your hands, your straps, your hips, your fucking face.
Your elbow was a little bit bent. You should really work on
whatever, you know what I'm
locking it
saying?
out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that bad. So it's for the most part, I think we have a really good audience, so we don't get a lot of trolls. I think most trolls know better.
Oh, well, they're there, bro. I still get them. I did a post on my Instagram.
I think the ones that are annoying to me are actually the ones that think that they're contributing good input. That's
they're super technically
like if you're just
smart.
trolling me hard, like come get it. You know what I'm saying? Because then I'll fire back at you.
Yeah.
But some people are like, hey, I want to be nice about this, but your form looks really shitty.
Like you guys, but I got to be honest. I have to say something.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It's
You
like
feel compelled to say something. I mean, by all means.
Or they'll ask a question, but it's actually a comment. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, why do you?
is there a reason why your hips shift to the left?
Yeah.
I just want to know if that's like
I
a
know
technique.
you're trying to like justify this because you posted it, you know. And
No,
so I gotta be careful about how I say
fuck
this.
you guys.
I posted a picture on my actual main page of it was just we went when we were working out up in I think it was Seattle before one of our events, and it's a cool picture. I'm doing curls, and I think you can see the dumbbell. It's at 35 pounds or something like that.
You screwed up curls,
Yeah,
dude.
I know. No.
Oh my God.
Some dude underneath is like, "Yo, you're making that face, but it's only 35 pounds." And I'm like,
Is it really that hard?
dude. And
Is
I'm-
it?
and I wrote underneath them, I'm like, dude, it's curls. Like nobody cares. There's certain exercises that matter. Curls is not one of them. Nobody.
It's weird because everything for me like that is easy.
I
make this face.
So I was reading bodybuilding magazines real young, 15, 16 years old, and I remember doing that to bodybuilders. I'd see the pros, and they do posing pictures, with a 40-pound dumbbell. I'd be like, dang man, he's not that strong for it. Not realizing that it's a fucking picture,
Right.
they're just posing for it or whatever. Yeah, I had a good workout this morning. Got up real early and hit my garage. I haven't worked out in my garage for at least a week. And put on a little classic rock. It's cold as shit. Chalk. And every once in a while, I get that old man rage. You know what I mean? That old man, like, I'm going to fucking break some shit.
Yeah.
And luckily, it wasn't myself. I didn't break myself,
good.
so I feel good.
Directed that to the weights.
Yeah, I did my post-workout 9 egg yolk meal with the cholesterol just to freak everybody out. So, yeah, it's a good time, man. Good workouts. How's your training been, Justin?
Good. Yeah, I've been getting a little angry myself lately. I think it's good. It's a good outlet for me. That's the thing. Okay, so
Where are you lifting most of the time right now?
mainly at my house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually just got that membership over at the Club Sport though too to kind of get my steam time in. 'Cause that's like an important feature for me these days. I don't know. It's just I've accepted that. But yeah, no, I have been a little tense, the last few weeks, and so I just remember the old go-to is to just go start, getting after it. Let's expend this unrest, on the weights, because I mean that's why I always liked football. I always liked the contact sports. I tried Muay Thai out, these types of things, because it brings me that peace again. Because I do have like spells where it's just like, man, where's this coming from? And it just builds up inside me, and then I have to have a healthy outlet for that. So thank God for weights.
I feel like Justin's gonna be the biggest asshole old man. You know what I mean? When he's like 70 or 80.
Yeah, it'll probably set in.
You know why?
around then.
Because around that age, he'll be at a place where he doesn't hold anything anime. He just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's constantly struggling to maintain that keep it in.
Yeah. It's like I have this whole facade I'm presenting to everybody.
When he's 75, he's like, I ain't got time to go lift no heavy ass weight. I'm just gonna be a dick.
Yeah,
it'll be easier.
I just get yell at people. That'll back them
Throwing
off.
shit at people through the car window and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
get out of here.
Yeah. So yesterday I went to Whole Foods and I ran out of skinny dipped almonds at home, and I'm like, I want some fucking chocolate almonds. And I thought, well, Whole Foods should have, they should have good options. It's Whole Foods.
They do, don't they?
They have chocolate almonds, but it's like first of all, it's like shiny chocolate. So it's like you know what I'm talking about, where it's kind of smooth chocolate. It's a lot of chocolate, not very much almond, at least in comparison to.
Did you look at the back to see what their number?
No, it was in their bulk section. So I actually had
scooped it in.
Yeah, I actually had a few free ones before I decided to fucking forget it because they're just it's candy.
Yeah.
I don't want
It's
to
a chocolate ball with
Yeah.
a little tiny almond.
Yeah, dude, I'm not trying to eat a bunch of chocolate. I want almonds with some a little bit of chocolate hint or whatever. And it just reminds me of why Skinny Dip is destroying everybody right now in that.
I see them popping up everywhere. They were in Nordstrom's rack. I seen them in Target.
Wait, Nordstrom's rack?
Yeah,
Weird.
I was in line. I was picking some shoes up or something, and I was in line at Nordstrom's rack. And sure as shit, there's Skinny Dipped in there. So they're all over the place.
Oh, and I gotta thank
Random
you guys.
places.
Every time we do these live events, people are just like, "Oh, you're gonna go, steal some Skinny Dip almonds here," and they like flaunt them at me, like, "Oh, you want some of mine?
They feed you like an animal at a zoo.
Fat ass here. You want some of this?" That's all your guys' fault, by the way.
You should. That's
I can't wait till we start going to some of these videos and people are throwing like Skinny Dip almonds and
Just pelting me with them. I do love them though. It's like, what do you want from me?
How dare you blame that on
Yeah.
us? That's your fault.
Whatever. You
Yeah.
guys
If you didn't
always
eat 'em all,
talk about it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't eat them all. What the hell?
Hey, did you
right.
guys see?
enough.
Have you guys watched the docu series on Bill Gates yet on Netflix?
I've seen the first episode.
Me too.
You too?
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
really good.
Dude, that guy's a brilliant fucker.
Oh, learn about his mom too.
He
is
said
really interesting.
something that ironically made me feel really guilty about watching the documentary. And he was talking about, I can't remember what happens. You guys remember when you guys watch it, but I mean, basically he refers to like almost anything else that he does with his time. If he's not building something, creating something, spending time with family or something like that, like all other things fall in the category of distraction. And I thought that was like crazy. Like that's the way his brain works, is like, oh, for the first time something happened where he was like stressed or something happened. It was like for the first time in his life, he went and did something that was just to create distraction so he didn't have to think about what was going on. The rest of the time he's like focused on learning or creating something or doing something. And I found that really fascinating. He also does something that I thought's really cool. And he's done this for decades now, where 1 week out of the year, he has this fucking tiny little shithole cabin out in the middle of nowhere that he does 7 days of silence by himself. He goes up there.
That's so smart.
He packs up like 20, 30 books that he wants to read. And
He's a voracious reader.
and then it's
He's crazy about that.
crazy.
Wow.
And it's literally like it's nothing. There's the amenities in the cabin you can say are just like the bare amenities that he has. And he sits at this little desk with a little window like facing like I think there's a lake out there. I can't remember. But just, looks like Tahoe or something like that, but no one around him. And he spends 7 days and he's been doing this for decades. And it's like a scheduled thing every year. That's his time to really think deep.
Here's the crazy thing about Bill Gates is he was so successful because I think a lot of people realize that Bill and Melinda, his wife, are two of the biggest philanthropists of all of history. They've donated more money than I think almost anybody else ever, and
Like combined, bro.
just insane amounts of money, and that's all because he did such a damn good job with his
product.
business. Yeah, so like capitalism led to because people that led to Bill and Melinda Gates, who now have combined. You ready for this? You know how much they've donated total with their foundation?
Dude, billions.
$50
Yeah.
billion.
Yeah. Him and Warren Buffett are like really good friends. And
Yes.
what they've done is incredible.
Oh, it's insane. They've seen,
It blows my mind that we look at people like that or say we demonize them because of how much money they
the
make.
1% or whatever. But yeah, look at what that can do.
Right.
For the good.
oh, it's crazy. His organization alone is responsible for solving big problems in parts of the world where there are major issues. You watched the one where they're trying to figure out I
watched them all.
The sewer system or
Yeah,
whatever?
no, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and they put up a lot of money to try and get people to and I didn't realize that was that big of a problem, that it was causing that many.
Yeah, I know. That makes perfect sense. And it was great to see everybody innovate in that direction at the same time. That was all led by him.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy part is that when you think about how much money it costs to figure that out, like had he not done that, nobody would have done that.
Nobody's going to do it.
None of the engineers.
It's too big a project to tackle.
All of the engineering minds that it took to create that are so valuable doing other things in the world that they would never stop to try and work on some project that they don't even know for sure they can solve unless he funded it like that.
I think this is why I get so irritated with everybody being so divisive and so extreme, is because when we're organized towards, a centralized goal for good in philanthropy work, like solving a massive issue, like it's cancer, it's polio, it's whatever it is. You get all the brightest minds together collectively. You pull in. Obviously, you need a lot of resources. And so it's like, why not? Push our leaders in that direction instead of like, well, I don't like what he says about this thing and that and the other and bullshit. It's like we just get stuck in the quagmire.
I mean, and for me, when I see stuff like that, I just I admire the sense of purpose. Here's a man who, for all intents and purposes, could have obviously easily just told everybody, I'm done, I'm out, and just lived his life quietly. He's got way more money than he could ever spend even if he tried, and here he is working. Probably more than he did before. He puts more time and effort and stress on himself because he's driven by this purpose to help people. I think it's so. I really hope one day I could get to that point where I've done whatever I need to do, and I could say, oh, cool. Like now, I can pick something just for the sake of it and say, okay, I want to fix that or I want to help that.
Oh,
doesn't matter if it,
To be in that place would be a cool place to be.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of your documentaries and stuff, I was doing some reading on like fitness through the decades, and something that I've known about, but I've done more reading on recently in particular, was the running revolution that happened in the U.S. in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of people don't realize that before the 70s and 80s, people would run for exercise, but it wasn't like a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a big deal. You didn't go outside and see.
Yeah, you saw it on Anchorman. Remember, he's like, everybody's jogging now.
Yeah.
I've heard them try and connect it to cocaine because of the 70s.
No.
I have. I've heard people try and connect that. Yeah.
Such a logical
side effect of cocaine.
Because it's
I have all this energy.
Not so much the side effect from cocaine, but from people that are trying not to do cocaine all the time, and that becomes like an outlet because it stimulates a similar part of the brain as cocaine does, and it happened in the 70s and 80s like that.
No, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never heard that theory.
Yeah, no, I can't remember where I read that a long time ago, but it made me laugh when I said that. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
No. No, but so in the 70s, in 1977, there was a book that was published, and I got it written down. I'll pull up the name of it. It was like the runner's, what was it? It was the complete guide, the complete book of running, and by Jim Fix, 1977. So this book comes out and becomes a bestseller. And it ushered in a running revolution where something like between 1977 to like 1985 or something like that, estimated 25 to 35 million Americans just took up running because of this trend that was happening. It became cool. So it's like one of the first big fitness trends that kind of started happening, happened right around then. And you had the explosion of running shoe companies that were, these shoe companies were not that big of a deal. And now all of a sudden you had Saucony and all these other companies that were specialized in running shoes. And people were just picking them up and I'm going to go out and I'm going to start jogging. It was like the way to work out in the 70s and 80s. And I foresee another revolution on the brink now, which I think is resistance training. I think we're primed for a similar kind of mass acceptance or appeal.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I agree with that.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. It's good for us if you're right, but I think there's something about like the things that are really easy, right? Like to get out and just go throw some headphones on and a pair of sneakers on and go run. You could have terrible form. Anybody can do it. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do it, and so the low barrier to entry, I think
low skill.
Yeah, I think that really matters when things like that go viral or things turn out being like this sensation that millions of people are doing it. And
that's why you saw like aerobics like really followed that right after it. Everybody's just like in their home and doing things.
Step aerobics became huge.
Yoga at one point became super popular and exploded like that.
Like it did. And yoga is also complex and requires an instructor a lot of times. I think resistance training in different forms, I think we're poised for an explosion, a revolution. It's almost there. Like for the first time ever, you see now women entering the weight room like never before. In fact, they make up probably half of the people.
I know you didn't. Did you watch Monday Night Football this weekend or this weekend? No?
I like how you assume I didn't watch it.
I know you did.
How do you know I didn't watch it?
Yeah, it's just unless it was on the TV.
No, and I've been adamant about watching Sundays especially.
Doug, look up maybe on YouTube, look up Mirror commercial. So we talked about these companies, right? Mirror and Tonal are the two brands that I'm familiar with. With the wall trainer.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I tell you what, Mirror's commercial was pretty fucking cool.
Was it?
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. Like I was not impressed with the original launch of both these brands. I thought we'll see. But man, I saw it advertised on Monday Night Football, so they definitely spent a pretty penny.
I think there's something there, mainly because of what Peloton opened up. And that's and that's mainly because it's like, okay, we have the technology now to create the experience. Everybody wants the experience, and that's something that you go into an Orange Theory, you go into like one of these like Soul Cycles or whatever. Like that's been the big way it's gone viral, and now they're trying to they can recreate that by presenting these streaming classes like in front of them doing something simple.
Yeah, I want you guys, I know Doug hates when we watch things in the middle of the show, but I want you guys to watch it because I want to comment and talk about it because they did a good job of like connecting too, like to your friends and making it interactive. So at least the commercial to me did a good job in comparison to when they launched.
That's a big benefit, by the way. If you can pull in friends, community with what you're doing. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like that was the selling part for me. And when I was watching, I was like, oh, okay, this is smart. Like if I can reach out and I can compete with friends, or I can that's like Peloton. That's why Peloton I feel like did so well is because they still, even though you're in your home by yourself, they found a way to create that community aspect. And I think they're trying to do the same thing with this. So we'll see.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, it was I'd say a good, majority of the success of CrossFit was that they took weights and they turned it into a freaking group class, basically.
Yeah.
That whole environment. And the group classes always do well at getting people going when it comes to fitness because of that social component. So I think that's a very smart, place to invest your money, I guess, in fitness. The only problem I have with it is it's so fad-based, that is it going to really make a long-term impact?
Yeah, Doug, look up mirror workout commercial. So, and it should pop up.
How do you spell mirror?
Like a mirror?
Oh, mirror. M-I-R-R-O-R-O.
All the ones I saw were like 10 months old.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. So what on the commercial, they're just showing...
No. This one right here. I'm going to send it to Doug right now so he can see it because I wanted you guys to watch so we can talk about it here. If I send it to your thread, can you put it up there, Doug, or no? Is it easier for you from your computer?
Just send it to my thread, yeah.
Yeah, just
is it on YouTube?
By the way, Andrew, we're going to have to cut out some of this stuff here. I'll make a blank spot in the.
Do you really think so? I don't think it's that bad. Joe Rogan does it all the fucking time.
Well, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You don't.
He's not as good as we are.
That's a soundbite. Yeah. That one, Andrew.
Yeah. Just when we need a fucking war.
I mean, one thing about Doug, he is wise.
Yeah.
That is it's an audacious claim, and I like it.
Yeah. I don't know. Justin, you listen to Joe all the time.
I do, yeah.
He does that shit all the time, doesn't
he?
They
do, but the way that they video their podcast, because he gets a lot of viewers on YouTube.
Well, he does live.
And they'll show.
Well, that's Andrew, bro.
And
come on, Andrew.
You know what? They actually made a really good point.
Look at. Play it, Doug.
When you look into the mirror, what do you see?
Oh, we can't hear it.
A chance to grow stronger.
Wow, look at that. That is so cool, though.
I know, it's very cool.
Room to beat your best. The mirror
like
is a window.
Big ass iPad.
The world
you know what? If they have a porn app on that, that thing will sell like crazy.
No matter who you are or where you are.
Yes.
The mirror lets you work out
Dirty
with
thoughts.
world-class trainers in live or on-demand classes, complete with encouragement.
Yoga, cardio, strength training, all in it.
Or don't think you need it.
Wow.
You've got this. Measure your progress. Work out.
I mean, it's cool. How much does it cost?
Look at
when you're done,
take a selfie so you like on Instagram where you keep the updated photos.
Oh God,
that's a clean UI they got.
worth it.
It's expensive. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it is.
No
Like even more expensive than Peloton, I guess.
Just your home.
And Peloton's
a mirror,
ridiculously expensive.
And you.
Dude, the future is weird.
What do they run, Doug? Do you know what does it show in there?
Let me find out.
I don't know.
That's actually kind of
It
interesting.
looks like Brendan
It's very
Fraser.
interesting. It looks super clean, right? The UI looks badass.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's brilliant. Okay, what does everybody do now on Instagram? You start your workout and
You gotta
you
tell
start,
everybody and
you
take
got to tell
pictures.
1,400.
Hey, I'm checking in, huh? You guys want to
$1,400.
know?
Yeah, $1,500.
I mean, the price point, look, when it comes to tech, people are willing to spend that much money.
Yeah, that's actually not as much as I thought.
Now here's where the fucking old school trainer in me is. It's like, okay, $1,500. You can get a sick ass fucking gym in your house
Right.
for that much money, or you could go to a gym down the street and pay $50 a month.
Yeah, but then it's just going to sit there and they can put clothes on it. People want to know what to do, and I think that's the problem they're solving with that.
Well,
Yeah.
the knock that I have right now is that it's you don't have any squat racks, you don't have a barbell, you don't have it's
all
obvious,
bodyweight
it's
stuff.
all body weight and all dumbbell
Yeah,
stuff.
you're only going to get so far.
Yeah, so that's the
But that being said,
right. Doesn't mean you can't have a great
I like the Nintendo workout better than some of that. I'll be
but
honest.
Oh, really?
really,
Yeah, just only because it's body weight too, but it's
Interactive.
incentivizing. Yeah, exactly. It's more fun.
well, that being said, for the average person, body weight resistance training or a pair of dumbbells, sure, they're not going to be hitting PRs and doing crazy, but are they going to get dramatic improvements in their strength and metabolism? And
Yeah, but nowhere at the same speed as somebody who would.
no, of course not.
Yeah.
But again, when you're trying to take resistance training and make it
Yeah, but what does
mainstream-
everybody want? Everybody wants results and as fast as you possibly can. If you want results and you want them as fast as you can. So I had somebody came up to me, a trainer from when we were at our last live event, and she's like telling me like, Adam, I have this lady who she doesn't have barbells, she doesn't have this, she doesn't have that. She can only go to the gym one day a week, and then the other 2 days she can be at home doing body weight type stuff. And she goes, "Can I still, help her and build muscle? She wants to build muscle and be strong and everything like that." And I said, "Absolutely, she can." But you also need to be realistic with your clients. Like I think a mistake that I think sometimes trainers make is, of course they just want the client, and so they're like, "Yeah, I could do it," and you can. But I think it's important to communicate to clients too that the goals that they have. Because here's what I would get all the time. Here's what I can do. I can only train 1 day a week inside the gym. The rest of the time I can do 2 days a week body weight stuff. And then they'd be like to have this vision of this physique that they want to look. And then they would also be like, and I want to get there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we could do this. We could definitely build a physique. Now, will it look just like this person you're showing me right now? Wow, they definitely look like they lift a lot of weight, very consistently. Like you got to be realistic with what they're trying to accomplish in the time they're trying to accomplish it.
So this is I have a story on this. So I used to tell this to clients because I had an experience years ago with another client of mine who was going to get her gallbladder removed, and she knew that I trained a lot of surgeons. So she says, "Hey, can you check on Dr. So-and-so and see if he's a good doctor, because that's the guy who's slotted to remove my gallbladder." So I asked all my other surgeon clients, because they all worked at the same hospital, and I could tell they didn't want to talk shit, So you know what they said to me? They said, I said, is Dr. So-and-so good? One of my clients needs to get her gallbladder removed. And they go, well, he's actually one of the fastest surgeons. So I said, okay. So I told her, I said, he's really fast. So imagine if you went to a surgeon and you said, "Hey, I need this heart surgery," and the doctor's like, "No problem. I'm the fastest heart surgeon around. I'll get it done faster." But fuck no, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
I want to work with the guy or girl who's going to do it the right way. Same thing with training. Do you want to lose weight the fastest way, or do you want to do it the right way? Because doing it the wrong way means it's not going to be as effective. It's going to come back and then some at some point. It's going to feel like shit. You're not going to have long-term success. Why not do it the right way? And this attitude leads great to this next study I was going to bring up. People's attitudes towards speeding up their progress typically leads to behaviors that contribute to overtraining. Right? They overwork. They think, okay, I'm getting started. I need to lose 20 pounds. I know
more means more results.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna work out every day. Yeah. I'm gonna go super hard every day because that's gonna make it happen faster and more effectively. The truth is, we've talked about this time and time again, not true. The right dose is the best dose. More than that is not optimal and will actually slow your progress down and decrease the likelihood that you'll have long-term success. But besides that, they found that in the brain, they did a study on overtraining, and they took some athletes and they overworked the shit out of them. And then they had them do tests to test their impulsivity. So they would do a test where they'd say, would you rather have...
I'm sure that increased.
Oh, yeah. They were so much more impulsive. So they do tests like, would you like $10 now or $50 3 months from now? Or, the old study, eat the 1 marshmallow now or the 3 later. They had them, they looked at their food choices. They looked at their choices with alcohol and stuff. And they found that the more overtrained the athletes were, the worse their impulsivity was.
Wow, that's so interesting because there was also I remember seeing another study about traumatic brain injuries and how that affected that impulsivity. Like it went through the roof, in terms of risky behavior, in terms of decisions where they were eating more junk food and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so this part of the brain gets fatigued. When you're super overtrained.
What the side that makes you think logically?
Yes, the part of the brain that is the filter. I can't remember where they said it was, but was the filter for these impulsive tendencies.
Your brain gets fatigued. What a trip!
Of course, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, it's part of the central nervous system.
Nobody talks about that.
So now think about it this way. Here you are. You're a person. You're trying to get fit. You're fucking training. You're overdoing it because you think it's going to get you there faster. Not only does it now not get you there faster because you're not training properly, but now, how do you think your diet, how hard is it going to be for you to eat right when you're overtrained and you want to fucking choose the donut for breakfast or the extra slice of pizza?
Wow.
Have you guys experienced this when you overdone?
So it just promotes that restrict binge, which it speaks to probably why so many competitors, because I remember one of the things when I was competing, how many competitors overtrain. I mean, that's just the formula. What most of them are really good at is the discipline of restricting for a period of time and training like a fucking madman. I'm going to fucking go in there, do cardio twice a day, train every day for an hour and a half. And I have this discipline to have tilapia and fucking rice and broccoli for fucking.
Meanwhile, their impulsivity urges increase substantially, but they're fighting it.
Right. Which, and that was to me what I saw. What I saw was, and kudos to them that they have the ability to have this discipline for 3 months or 4 months at a time. But this explains a lot of why most of them all binge hard afterwards, because it's an eruption. It's like you were burning the candle at both ends for so long, and it speaks to the study you're talking about, Sal, too, and that part of the brain's probably so fatigued. Once you get done with that show, fuck it, and you just go bananas.
All walls are down.
Yeah, it's not unheard of for a female competitor to gain 20 to 30 pounds in a few weeks.
Not even a few weeks. So first week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of them in a week.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Think about what that does to your body. And we have studies now that show that not only does your body gain that body fat back, but then it tries to improve its ability to store calories. So you actually add fat cells.
Well, the part that I thought was
making it worse.
Remember when we talked with Lane, and Lane was talking about that we've found too that's the worst time to do that.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah, you're most vulnerable at that time, and your body puts on way more body fat that you don't get rid of.
You add fat cells, and getting rid of fat cells, you basically don't. So now you've increased your capability or your capacity or your efficiency at storing calories. So now not only did you get fat fast, but now your ability to get fat has just got better.
Yeah.
So you've just made your.
This is why too we see in the competitive world too. I think why a lot of competitors struggle show 2, show 3, show 4, show 5. Every time, if you're a competitor listening, you've probably experienced this, where it's harder to get as lean as you were last time. Following the same stuff. I don't know how many times I talked to peers that it would be like, man, I don't fucking get it this time. And I'm
doing exactly what I did last time.
I forget they have a term for it that they use. It's a bro term.
Yes. I'm trying to think burnout, show. I don't remember.
And a lot of them will just take off a season or a half a season because they get this whatever this term is. But that's what it really is that you've continued to do this cut really hard then binge, cut really hard then binge. And of course,
think about it. Your body does not want to get that lean at all. It fights it. And so in order to get that lean, you take extreme measures, oftentimes taking drugs to help your body, lots of cardio, severe calorie restriction. And if you do this repeatedly, your body, because it doesn't want to get that lean, it gets better at not getting that lean. So think about that, right? Your body literally is like, okay, this is happening to us. We need to get better at fat storage because this person's going through these periods of starvation. We're going to become more and more efficient each time. Oh, and it looks like after these periods of starvation, we get this abundance of food. Let's improve our ability to store that fat or those calories so that next time, because we know this person's going to starve again, they're not going to be in such a precarious position. So you end up literally training this is what you do. You're training your body to become fatter easier and to get leaner harder.
And my theory is the harder you do that, the more extreme you are, the more the body rejects or responds to that, right?
Totally.
So, yeah, the harder you restrict, the more it's like, okay, we definitely need to hold on to this shit, which is why I think the biggest mistake they make is not trying to be on that, which is why I would always say the fucking, what I've said a million times on this show. It's like my goal is always to do the least amount possible to elicit the most amount of change because of that exact reason. Mm-hmm. Body's always trying to adapt. I show it extreme one way, it's going to try and adapt extreme the other way to counter the next time I fucking restrict all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want to do is go to those extreme limits because I'm only making it that much harder for myself down the road.
And those are long lasting effects. It's not like, I just did it, last month. I'll bounce back in a month or two. Some people it could take as long as years. So, be very careful if you enter into that space. Anyway, what was the big hubbub about this college football players pay in California?
You see Gavin Newsom
passing
this.
So I just saw this, Justin. I didn't get a chance to read much on it. I know Jackie sent it over an article. I had people DM me about it.
Right, there's already a spurred conversation on the forum about it, and people are really hyped about it.
Is it officially passed? I mean,
they passed in California, but it's waiting to see how the NCAA responds. And then, from my understanding, then they're going to kind of sort of play this out in terms of they're worried that a lot of these schools won't be eligible then to go into the playoffs, go into these bowl games and things like that because they might block them because of allowing them. So what happened was now they've advocated for the student athlete to be able to hire an agent and get endorsement deals.
So now they can get paid.
Okay,
because that was against the rules before.
Yeah, and the argument is that every student on campus already has the ability to create a YouTube channel, to monetize their likeness, their whatever. They have the ability to make money as also being a student,
right,
and going through that. Why are you condemning the athletes because of this old structure you have in place in terms of where the business?
Oh, this is interesting. So this is in regards to things like YouTube and stuff, and taking on endorsements from a shoe company. Where this doesn't mean the colleges are going to pay the athletes to play football.
No, this is all endorsement, which is brilliant.
Now I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been a big fan of the colleges figuring, because then what's the difference between college and pro if you do it that way?
I think you can. I think what you can see that if I'm not mistaken, we should look this up. I wonder if this includes colleges. I wonder if colleges then will find a loophole and be able to find ways to pay people. And so this is where my brain goes.
Of course.
Yeah. Now here's where my brain goes.
If you're recruiting like a Zion, right? So if you got that kind of a kid, he's already got 500,000 subscribers. I'm Duke University. This is before Zion came there. I'm Duke University. I see Zion. He's already a fucking phenom in high school. Yeah. He's already got 500,000 followers on YouTube.
It would behoove you to.
I'm Duke University. I have a relationship with Apple. I have a relationship with Nike. I have a relationship with Spalding. I got whatever. Fucking
producers that will create this whole thing. For
I rub elbows with them, and maybe I donate money to Spalding, and maybe that's why the NCAA might kibosh this whole thing, because they might say this is only going to muddy the water for us.
It's opening up a can of worms, no doubt. I mean, the whole infrastructure is going to change and implode. They're trying to wrap their brain around, if we allow this, or if we do a hard stance against it, they're kind of weighing both those options out. What's that going to do?
I'm in a really, I don't know where I stand on this, because
I like it. Because I think people should be open to. I think associations should be free. If you want to pay me and I want to accept your payment and it's voluntary, I think it's not a problem. Now, here's why I think Gavin Newsom passed it, because I don't like that guy, but this is why I think he passed it.
This is the one thing I like he's done.
Well, here's what I think. I'm thinking through Gavin Newsom's corrupt brain. And I think he's trying to make colleges in California give them an advantage over other colleges. Because if California colleges can now do this, we're going to start attracting more talent. They're going to want to come here.
Berkeley, USC, like some of the major schools, like fought him against that bill being passed.
Well, because they probably
the institution of it is making so much fucking money.
That, and I think that it's going to make it very difficult to, like what Sal brought up. Like, how are you now going to how is it if the idea is that trying to keep these kids from getting paid while they're in college, and that's what they're trying to limit, right? And we see this happening all the time where schools are getting blacklisted because of it, and everybody knows it goes on.
Right.
But you open up the opportunity for them to get paid through things like YouTube and channels like that, and take endorsements. Then it's going to be really hard to track where that money is coming from and how the schools may not be using that to manipulate and still openly recruit them. So it's kind of like, if you're going to go that route, you may as well open the whole floodgates and say, just allow them to buy and pay for athletes, however, just like you were in the NFL or the NBA.
The current model, I don't know, for me being an athlete, like going through like a real, like, you know, like a smaller school version of what these guys are dealing with, they'll actually be making real money, you know, like after something like this, we'll get endorsement deals because they know they have a chance of going to the pros, but that chance is so slim. People don't understand how impossible it is to get to the next level. They're putting their body on the line. They're sacrificing a lot of their education while they're in school.
Yep.
It's a joke. Like that whole argument of them being able to get a college education, they do not get into college education unless they're like just like completely like a robot, like on campus, like trying to study and then do, like they own you. Like it literally, I couldn't go out and do anything other than what I was doing, like for practice and studying film, and then like half-assed version of what I could have studied in class.
The interesting part is there's got to be a ton of pressure coming from also the NBA and the NFL, because now that if you open up the doors to potentially pay these young athletes, now you're a direct competitor with us. Right now we're sisters. We're sister companies. Like you're a farm system for our company, and we make the big fucking money. I mean, colleges are already making tons of money, and that's like, it's like fair play. You're making a ton of money right now, and then when we get them, we're going to make even more money off of them. Opening the doors for the college to do that. Now you're dipping into
There's
NFL.
a lot of potential cronyism that could result from this, for sure.
It's a very interesting, it's an interesting situation that we're in, and knowing what I think it's very simplistic to just say, oh, we should just pay them, like without really thinking about all the repercussions of that. Just like I think it's just as simplistic to say, don't pay them either. I think
if we stop trying to control people, if we just stop thinking about what's better, we got to do this because it's better for the whatever. Stop trying to control people. If the kid wants to make money and someone wants to pay them and it's voluntary and everybody agrees, then fine. That's where I stand. Fine, go for it. Instead of us trying to control everybody, mold everybody. Look, if it works for them, it works for you. You like that? You like that deal? You want to pay that kid? Yeah. Okay, here you go. You guys are cool. What the hell do I have to do? Why do I got to jump in and tell you what you can and can't do when it's all voluntary? You know what I'm saying? Nobody's getting hurt. Go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, and now you can monetize yourself on social media.
That's I don't know why I didn't think about this. I saw on that show, what was it, Undisputed? I said Undisputed last time, and it wasn't that right. Is it Uninterrupted? Undisputed. That's what it is, right? With LeBron James, the one I wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah, maybe.
He signed the bill on there. So he came on that show.
That's right. Gavin Newsom was there with LeBron James.
Yeah,
and made a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, dude.
We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I have a feeling that the NCAA is going to kibosh it and say, nah.
Of course.
All right. Our first question is from JP94. Can you guys talk about lifts that help improve the bench, squat, and deadlift?
Oh, good question. So other lifts that help the bench, squat, and deadlift. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is obviously the best lifts to improve your bench, squat, and deadlift are going to be the bench, squat, and deadlift.
Right.
There's the rule of specificity. Most of the adaptations in strength and performance that you get can be directly applied to the thing that you're doing. So you get really, really good at riding a bike. You'll gain stamina for other things, but most of the
I believe it's actually the law of specificity.
Is it the law of specificity? Yeah. So this happens with fitness. So I'll say this before we get into other exercises. One of the best things I've ever done to get those specific lifts better, besides doing more of those lifts, is using progressive resistance tools like chains and bands. Game changers. I mean, I added I don't know, 20 or 30 pounds on each of those lifts when I finally figured out how to incorporate bands.
Now, can we talk a little bit about where you think the minimum dose of those exercises should be in a week if you're trying to improve them before you start? Because this is what I see.
I hear what you're saying.
So I hear questions like this a lot. And then, let's say we say, well, doing, dumbbell presses is also going to help your bench press. And then if I were to look at somebody's programming, because they heard that, dumbbell presses are going to help that. You've got bench one day a week, you've got dumbbell press another day, and then you got like flies. And it's like, if you want to get better at your bench, you want to be benching more than one time a week.
For sure. I would say
100%.
Yeah,
right?
I would say 2 days a week minimum, as much as 3 or 4 days a week. In my experience training people.
So that's the point I want to make is that even though we're going to talk about other things that can complement these things, it's just like, it's no different than the way we would talk to an athlete who says, I want to get better at soccer or I want to get better at football. What exercises should I do? And then if we go, you should squat, you should do this, you should do that. And then they stop playing soccer as much to do all those exercises. You'll actually go the other direction. Nothing's going to make them better at soccer than playing more soccer.
Yeah.
So
that's why I think the direction you're going would be my initial thought in terms of like segmenting or like taking apart, like some of those lifts. Like if I'm going to take, where's the biggest sticking point for me? Is it, at the bottom of the lift? Is it, is it where, say if I'm bench pressing and I can't get that initial press off once I bring it all the way down, like that's something I want to address with either an isometric exercise or, something else like variable resistance, like where it's a little bit lighter there, but then I can increase, the load. And so I can transition into that a little bit more effectively.
So to that point, I also I would just bench, squat, and deadlift more, but then I would play with how I bench, squat, and deadlift. For example, there would be a day every week that's like working on my grinding strength. This is like, I'm going heavy and I'm challenging my strength on one day. Another day, I'm going very slow and controlled, very slow tempo, controlling the weight.
Perfect form.
And then another day, I'm speed. Another day, I'm going really light and I'm explosive and I'm going speed. And I'm doing that with all three of these lifts. So I'm working on technique.
It's the same movements.
Yes, same movements,
Variations.
all barbell, all everything, all the same. But I'm working technique one day and control. Another day, I'm working grinding and power. Another day, I'm working speed, and then incorporating tools like Sal is saying, like chains and bands to mess with the strength curve of those movements. That to me, those things alone will probably improve your bench, squat, and dead than searching for other exercises that have carryover into them.
Totally. A lot of strength when you, not talking about general strength, I'm talking about strength as applied to specific physical pursuits. A lot of it's skill, and skill comes from practicing. Consistent and constant practicing of that lift, how to maximize your leverage, how to maximize your control and your power output. And so doing the lifts frequently, even if it's not heavy, is going to make you better. Basically, here it is in a nutshell. Even if you don't get any bigger muscles or your muscles don't contract any harder, so you're not getting any stronger generally, but you just get better at squatting, you're going to squat more weight. I'll use Adam as a great example. Adam is by no means nearly as big as his biggest that he's ever been. He competed for 5 years or 4 years, was on gear for a long time. Big, muscular dude. Arguably can squat now as much as he did back then, if not more, at times during his career. And it's because you're squatting better, not because your muscles are bigger or necessarily stronger. You just got better. So practicing the skill is a big component. Now, that all being said, if you want exercises that tend to benefit those, I'll speak from experience and I'll start with the squat. For me, one of the things that helped me the most with my back squat, where I noticed a lot of carryover, besides squat variations like box squats and stuff like that, split stance exercises.
Bro, Bulgarian split squats had one of the best carryovers to my squat. When I talk about you talk about the improvement of my squat since competing days and stuff, getting good at Bulgarian split squats and getting strong at them, and then being able to plant both feet on the ground after you got really good at one foot being planted on the ground. Boy, you make
in that respect, like looking at unilateral type of exercises for their benefits in terms of like addressing maybe where there was a bit of an imbalance
or a
there
breakdown.
Was, a breakdown or compensation that may occur is very useful information. And so to be able to incorporate that and then also build more stability around the joint, so that helps to address that a lot of times. So I love like dumbbell bench for in terms of bench, like with either both or just one. And really that's because there's that added element, that added variable now where I have to do a lot more stabilizing in terms of where the load is pulling me in a lot more directions.
So I agree so much to do that. If I were to pick my 3 exercises to complement each one of these, it would be all the unilateral stuff. So it would be dumbbell bench press to complement the barbell bench press. It would be a Bulgarian split squat to complement my squat, and it would be a single leg deadlift with dumbbells to complement my deadlift. You get good at barefoot or in flat shoes and deadlifting
on one leg.
One leg off the ground with dumbbells. Watch what the fuck happens when you go back to putting both your feet on the ground and you try and rip that bar up. And to the point, like you're saying, Justin, is it really does address a lot of the discrepancies between one side and the other, which I think that we all have. It's on a spectrum. Some of us have a lot of discrepancy. So if you have a lot of discrepancy, getting really good at all the unilateral work is going to make a huge difference. Even if you have a little bit, it'll still improve.
Yeah, for me, bench, 2 exercises I noticed contributed heavily to my strength of my bench. It was any incline press, just because I neglected those for a long time. So as I got stronger with my incline press, I got way more stable.
Agreed.
On my flat bench. And then the other one was close grip bench presses. At one point, I got really, really good at a close grip bench press. And then going to a regular bench press was just so much stronger. For the squat, lunges, any type of a lunge, whether it's a walking lunge, a back step lunge, or even a Bulgarian split stance squat, just having the torsion on the pelvis where one leg is behind, one leg is in front, you really notice if you have any differences between the right and left-hand side. And I noticed that when I got good at those and I'd go do my squat, I was just more stable. I was way more stable, more secure, and I was able to generate more power. Now for the deadlift, interesting enough, I am noticing a lot of carryover from hip thrusts, believe it or not. Hip thrust is actually giving me some pretty amazing carryover on my deadlift. And partially, I think this is because I never did hip thrusts heavy. Never. I've done them as correctional work, but I've never really trained them consistently with a lot of weight. And what I'm finding with my deadlift is I'm pulling with more strength and power, especially when I start to get to that midpoint of the deadlift from the hip thrust.
It makes the most sense because when you're in a hip thrust, when you're working against gravity, that initial getting the bar up off the ground, I mean, it takes all that glute explosion, right, to get off the ground. Where deadlifting, because there's a lot of leverage involved, you can feel back, you can feel hamstring, and so you putting all that in, and the glute is the strongest part of our lower half, so you putting a lot of focus on getting those glutes to fire at the bottom early. I would imagine it's going to have good carryover in your squat too.
Yes,
I think. I mean, I think that's where the real value in that exercise is, the carryover to those big movements. I've never programmed it to where I'm curious. I'm watching you as you're going through it right now because I know this is probably the most you've ever hip thrusted.
I'm hip thrusting at least once a week, but probably more like twice a week right now. And I'll either use the Nautilus hip drive machine or I'll do a traditional barbell hip thrust. And I'm really surprised at how strong I'm getting at the hip thrust. I mean, I can put... And not to brag, by the way, I think it's so stupid when people post how much weight they're
Let's
lifting.
hear your numbers, bro.
Let's hear your hip thrust numbers.
That's so ridiculous to me. It's like, to stop bragging on that. Nobody cares.
Dude, The Rock's like posting that now.
You know why, dude?
No, really?
You know what it is? I'll tell you why. Because
dude.
I'm experienced this because you can get really strong at it, so it looks impressive. That's why. It's just like a leg press.
It's like leg press. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Look at all the weight I can do on the leg press. Nobody cares.
Nobody gives a shit.
I know a lot of people that can put that much and do 2 inches of range of motion. But anyway, I'm definitely noticing a carryover on my deadlift because my deadlift was very back. For me, at least, I'm a very back dominant lifter. I have really, really strong hands. I have a really, really strong back. My lower back, is incredibly strong, and so that's where I get a lot of my strength for the deadlift. But what I'm finding is I'm getting the hip drive now because of the hip thrust. So that's another good one. But here's the other thing you want to keep in mind. if you can identify any type of a mobility or imbalance in yourself, which is very different from person to person. So you may have, here's a big one. This one, actually, I can't even believe I didn't mention this one. This is a big one. Oftentimes when I would get clients who would come to me who'd want to improve their strength in a lift like the deadlift, you know where the weakest link would be? In the stabilizer muscles of the rotator cuff. And I would have them do rotator cuff exercises, and they'd add like 15 pounds to the bench press, like in a week or two, just because they're not realizing that their shoulder was so unstable that their body wouldn't let them push anymore.
Right.
Then we would do like basic.
Because they have to compensate around that.
Yeah, and we would do basic,
It's a loss of force.
Yeah, external rotation exercise. And then they'd go bench and like, whoa, 10 more pounds on my bench or whatever. So that's another one. If you have any mobility or issues or imbalances in your body and you go do mobility work and you work on the range of motion and connecting to them, you'll find that especially if it's individualized, because I can sit on the podcast and list all the different mobility movements, but it really depends on the individual. Yeah. And if you have a program like Prime Pro, you can actually take the test and find out what area you need to work on. Once you figure that out, work on those, and then you'll see improvements, not just in your bench, squat, and deadlift, but in all the other lifts.
Agreed.
Next question is from Where's My Soul? Thoughts on an Olympic lifting-inspired phase of training, including things like power cleans, push presses, high pulls, clean pulls, Pendlay rows, etc., for muscle and strength gains.
So we've incorporated all but one of those, right? In our program.
We haven't done cleans.
That's it. That's the one.
We've done high pulls. We've done everything else.
We've done everything else.
They didn't mention snatch, so yeah.
So power cleans are the only thing, and honestly, it's there. It would be maybe the next one we may include, and it's just because the general population
teaching it just takes so long.
It's very high skill.
It's all those movements are high skill. Power cleans for sure are. Snatches way up there. So I think it's incredible. If you have good technique, Olympic lifting is fucking awesome. And if you are at a point where you can actually do Olympic lifts with good form, one of the things that I have found, and that was something that was kind of cool, like the overhead squat that I can do now. I couldn't do that just 2-3 years ago. And what I have found by making sure I incorporate that occasionally in my routine, it kind of keeps me mobile. And I like that about Olympic lifts. Like, you've got to be hyper mobile and strong to do a lot of these lifts. But the fear that I have of giving someone the green light on this and not knowing who's asking this question is that in my 2 decades of training clients, I can count on one hand how many clients were in a place to do Olympic lifts.
You got to have stellar movement. And I mean, that's nothing to balk at. Like, it doesn't matter, whether or not, like, if you go through all these strength phases, you get really strong. Like, this is a completely different animal to approach.
Yeah, it's the sport of lifting weights.
It's not like you're like, oh, I've been lifting weights for 5 years, I'm strong, I can do all these now. No, you can't. You got to practice and learn them first.
Because power lifters, like, they're gonna fucking suck at these exercises, and that's just because it's a completely different approach. You have to have the ability to be loose and flow with the bar, in a sense, like create the optimal bar path, and then move your body around that, but still have that same ability to generate the type of force that, like, a power lifter can on command. So it's like the combination of your yogi guy that you make fun of as a power lifter with the power lifter, but now harmoniously making the symphony out of that together. And it's just like it's a really bizarre thing, but that's why it's revered to me. Like, these movements, they don't get enough. They're not put up enough in terms of, like, being unapproachable. Like, you really have to do your work to get to that level. It's the pinnacle.
Totally. If a barbell squat was a 10 in terms of technical difficulty, right, an Olympic lift would, like a snatch, would be 100. Yeah. It's like 10 times, and a squat takes a long time to get good at. So, that being said, if you're an appropriate person to do these exercises, so you're fit, you've got no joint pain, you've got good mobility, and you approach them appropriately in the sense that you practice them, you learn the technique and the skill, these exercises can be total game changers. They really can.
But
they're amazing.
It's a very small percentage of people, though. Again, 10 years to 20 years now almost of training clients, and I can count on one hand.
Right.
How many people were ready for this?
Now you can gain a lot of the benefits of the explosiveness that comes from these movements with exercises that are easier to learn. Not easy, but easier to learn, like a kettlebell swing. A kettlebell swing is a great way to learn or utilize explosive hip hinging, way less technical than the Olympic lifts. Still technical, still takes a lot of time to really learn how to do it properly, but just it's a lot easier. A push press, if you have good technique, good form, and you practice it, easier to learn. Pendlay row, easier to learn than the classic Olympic lifts, but there's definitely a place for explosive lifting with advanced lifters who approach it properly. If you do it the right way, you are going to gain some muscle
I would
strength.
want to see a good squat, a good deadlift, and a really good overhead press, and really good mobility before I would want one of my clients.
Sure,
to
there's
do
definitely
this.
a hierarchy of
right
things,
there. I want to see those things. We have squatted enough times. You've got a really pretty squat. We've push press, or we've done shoulder overhead press enough times. You've got a really good overhead press. You've got a really good looking deadlift, and I know you're mobile. You have good ankle mobility, good hip mobility, good shoulder mobility. Fucking A, let's do some Olympic lifts because this would be a fun person. And then even then, we're starting with a stick.
Yeah.
We're starting with a stick and now working technique before we start to load the bar, and then we progress and move from there. A normal person who's in the gym just working out that, hey, I hate to say this, but fucking all of us are fucked up, man. Most people sit at desks all day long or on computers all day long. We've got all these imbalances and issues going, and then going into Olympic lifts before you've really mastered some of the core movements and worked and addressed mobility, not a fan of it.
No, bro, it's like entering into a Formula One race when you never learn how to drive a car.
Right.
It's a whole different animal. It takes a lot more skill, and it can get real dangerous.
Yeah.
Next question is from Thunderbolt. I have a detached garage and I turned it into a gym. I'm in the Northeast and the winters are rough. My garage has no heat. Are there any dangers as far as injuries when working out in freezing temperatures?
Oh, I love this question. First and foremost, training in
It's like Rocky training
Work for Rocky.
in the
Sal.
freezer.
Work
right?
for Rocky.
Don't get me excited, bro.
Oh, I'm the boss.
Oh man, the scene where he's fucking jogging up the mountain and he's Drago.
Yeah.
You guys got me pumped. No, here's the thing. Are there risks associated with training in more extreme temperatures, whether it be heat or cold? Definitely. With heat, you can get, you can overheat, you can become dehydrated, you can pass out. With cold, the central nervous system tends to tighten things up. Injuries like muscle pulls and strains tend to be more common. And of course, in extreme conditions, you could get hyperthermia or whatever. But here's the deal: if you're okay, if you treat it with a lot of respect. If you go outside in the freezing temperature and you're bundled up and you start to peel things down as you warm up, if you wear gloves so you don't freeze your hands to the bar. I actually had a client who did that once, went out and tried to lift weights.
Froze the hands to the bar?
And no, he hurt his hands because the bar was so cold and especially if you sweat and you get sweat stuck to cold metal, not a good thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
But if you treat it all, very carefully, you're not going to hit your best PRs. You're not going to have necessarily your best workouts, but you are going to train your body.
You're going to build some grit.
Fuck yeah. And the body's ability to acclimate to temperature, it's a muscle, just like your biceps and your triceps, and you can get better at it by training this way. And some of my most fondest memories of working out are all revolved around working out in hot weather, out in my backyard in California, out in the sun, having to take my shirt off, having to pour water on myself while I'm working out. Like, those were some of my absolute favorite workouts. So there are some risks. You got to treat it. You got to be smart about it.
Yeah, spend a little bit of time warming up, right? I think there's a lot more value to this. This is where it does make sense. Like, you see people that do like the generic warm up when they come in the gym. That's perfectly temperatured, right? Like, they go in and they do the 10-minute warm up like you used to have your clients do. This has value to that. Like, if it's fucking 10 below and you're in your garage, you can see your breath. Like, getting a nice little 10-minute warm up and getting the heart rate going and getting your body temperature up and then getting into your exercise makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Well, you played football, Justin. What about when you played? Because
100%.
football, they don't fucking cancel games for
No,
shit,
you can't.
right?
And there's this one time, and we've definitely been thrown outside to lift weights in like extreme conditions too, just because our coach was kind of a dick sometimes and was like, you guys need to, bear it and deal with it. And like, I mean, half of football is like, that mental discipline in that I can overcome all these, obstacles, whatnot. So I remember vividly there was this one time. So we practiced sometimes just with our shoulder pads on, our helmet, but we wear shorts. And so this is sort of like light contact kind of day, like you do drills and stuff, but like it's getting close to game week. And so we're outside and the weather was fine. It was like, I want to say like, 65, something a little brisk. And all of a sudden, like a weather front comes in, lightnings, all this stuff, hail started to go, which the lightning stopped. We normally had to cancel practice only because of lightning, because that was a risk. But it started to hail and then quickly turned into like freezing winds. And the wind chill, like, I can't even tell you, like, that's the coldest I've ever been in my entire life. It felt like...
That's how you lost your left nipple?
Explains so much now.
Poor lefty, man. He suffered the cause there, where we're outside in shorts, and we're just like, that was the only time where I'm like, I'm not much of a complainer. But like, I was like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, can we go get some Under Armour on or something, And like the coach is out there and he's in like a t-shirt and shorts and just like loving it. Like looking at us in the eye, like, stick your face in it, stick your face in it. And I'm just like, I don't know about that, dude. Like, I'm dying. He made us stay an extra hour of practice just to kind of like prove a point that the human body can withstand the elements like that. And so again, like there's another level. I think there's value in that, kind of like the Dr. Andy Galpin sort of mentality, where it's like sometimes you can push the envelope to see that there is more capacity, more ability to get through more of this extreme. And I think it really did, like, it sucked, but it was good.
There's something to be said about the mental toughness that you develop through resistance training. Even if you work out in a climate-controlled gym, that's part of your training. Part of the training that you get is you get acclimated to pain. You get acclimated to struggle. When you get a new client who's never lifted weights, and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. But you as a trainer who I know, I could always come down to rep. I know exactly how many more reps a person has, especially after I've trained them for a month or so. I could tell, like, oh, you actually have 5 more reps. People are like, I can't do anymore. And I'd be like, you have like 10 more reps. They're just not used to the pain. They don't have that mental toughness anymore. And that gives you a lot of value in everyday life. Like, you go train in the gym, you lift heavy things, you get stronger. Life doesn't seem as hard when you go do things in everyday life. It just makes you tougher. So throwing an element like this, I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I can see my breath, it's cold and I can see it, or if I'm sweating so much because it's hot, there's another gear that turns on. Yeah. And it all of a sudden makes me, I don't know, I thrive a little bit.
Where anger helps.
Yes, and you have those better workouts, So I'll say, are there risks for injuries? Yeah, do a proper warm-up. Be careful. Put on a coat or whatever, but nah, man, it's going to make you tougher.
Get it.
Next question is from Kelly Ryan. I would love to hear your point of view on private school versus public school.
So I picked this question because this last week
you got a question, right?
Yeah, I had a question in my and I got a ton of DMs afterwards, and I basically told everybody that was DMing me, go put it on the Quah. At one point we'll address this. And before we answer this question off air, Sal looked at me and it was just like, please be careful when you answer this question. And I don't understand what that means. So I'm just gonna,
you never do.
I'm just gonna say how
careful.
First of all,
because it's politically charged. That's
it
why.
is. Yeah. I know, and I'm kidding. I know why he said that. Because for some reason people take this so personal. If you decide that you're adamant about putting your kid in private school, like it's like I'm shaming all public school teachers and all people that go to public schools. I went to a public school. My mom is a public school teacher. My best friend is a public school principal. I'm not shaming it. And by the way, all of them, if they could put their kids through private school, would. And it's simply this. They're in a community. And here's another thing too. there are public schools that are out there that probably outperform certain private schools. There's probably exceptions to the rule. There's probably some place in the country where this public school is right down the street from some private school and the students there excel more and it does well. There's always exceptions to every rule. So what I'm saying isn't like, fact that this is a rule across the board everywhere. It's just that for the most part, you in a private setting, you have smaller classrooms where the teacher has more attention to the students. The curriculum seems to stretch the students further. The things that they can offer to the students, like programs like robotics and things like that, don't always exist in schools like public schools. And then I'm going to say some shit that's going to sound elitist and somebody's going to fucking get all butthurt about it. But here's the thing. I have a lot of people that I'm the age of now that went to schools like Bellarmine and these very nice private schools here. And then I have a lot of friends that have gone to public schools. And one of the things that I noticed on my friends that went to these private schools is, a lot of them ended up with some really fucking big jobs, and their friends all got hooked up with these really big jobs. And there's a selfish part of me that wants to put my son through a school where he's connected to potentially other kids that go on to do great things for that relationship. And that's just, if I'm in a position to do that and I can afford to do that, like I want to do that. And I didn't go to one. I went to a public school. I made it all right. And so I don't think that my son wouldn't be okay if he went to public school. But part of why I worked so hard and I waited until my late 30s to have a child was because I wanted to provide that opportunity for him. And it doesn't mean that I'm not aware that there's probably spoiled brats that go to those schools and kids that there's probably a higher
there's shitty kids in all schools.
There's probably a higher addiction to things like pills, like I'm sure all that stuff exists. I don't look at it for those things. I look at it for the ability for relationships and connections, and for the education that's more one-on-one with the teachers. And I just personally want to be able to send my kid through it.
No. It all boils down to this for me, because I've put my kids in private schools, and this is what it boils down to. I have a choice. I have more choices in private schools. Public school doesn't give you a fucking choice. You got to send your kid to the school that's in your district. You can't choose to go to a different school. It's one of the most unequal things that you'll ever find in this country. If you want to talk about disparity, wealth disparity, and all that shit, public school. Go to a public school in some of the hardest neighborhoods in this country and compare them to the public schools in Beverly Hills, over here in Los Gatos, California, or Palo Alto. And what you'll see is total different, completely different. Now, I wish it's a public service. Everybody pays taxes for it. Most people pay tax. Not everybody, but we all pay taxes into it. It's public service. I wish parents had a fucking choice. If I'm a single mom and my kids they got to go to school at this fucking shitty ass high school over here in this neighborhood that I can't afford to move anywhere else, I wish I could take my tax money because the school receives the tax money for my kid. My kid goes to that school. The state pays them money for that school. And by the way, the average public school in California gets something like $12,000 or $14,000 a year per student. Okay, 12 to 14, some of them even more in some states, as high as $15,000, $16,000 a year. In money from the state will pay for your kid to go to school. I wish that they would just give you the money. Here's your $15,000, Mrs. Johnson or Mr. whatever Smith. Now you can pick what school you want to send your kid. But they don't let you do that. You got to go to the fucking school that you live nearby. And I like choice.
And you might be lucky. You might be right by an amazing public school with amazing teachers.
Yeah, because your house is $3 million and you live in a, you know what I'm saying? So the way I look at it, I like choice. When I go to the store to buy eggs, I want to buy the eggs I want to buy. I don't want to buy the eggs that the government says I have to buy because I live in a neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? I like to choose. So if I want more of a moral teaching in the school, if I want more of a religious teaching in my school, if I want a school that's heavier into science, or maybe one that's art centric, I have to go to a private school.
Right.
And they exist. These schools exist. If you have a kid that doesn't fit in the standard model of public school, or especially the school that you live nearby, let's say your kid is super artistic and needs to learn things kinesthetically. I mean, you can go and you can petition the school and go through this freaking rigmarole bureaucracy bullshit that nobody has time to do. Or if you have the money, you could pick a private school that caters to that kind of student. And you know what happens to these private schools if they don't do a good job? They're out of business. Yeah. You know what happens to public schools when they do a bad job?
Nothing.
They ask for more money, and they usually get it. When public schools do a shitty job, The state looks at them and says, oh, this school's doing a bad job. You know why they're doing it? And this is what it always turns into. Why are you guys doing a bad job? We're not getting enough money. All right, give them more money. By the way, the money doesn't ever go to the teachers who arguably should get more of the money.
The most important part.
Yeah, it goes to their insane bureaucracies and school union leaders and all that bullshit. No, man, it's a fucked up system. California used to have a voucher system in certain areas. In California, school systems were one of the best in the country. And a voucher system is literally what I said, where you want to send the state gives you a voucher, you pick the school. And so what ended up happening is the good schools got all the money, the bad schools lost money. So they had to adapt and whatever. But it doesn't work that way anymore. Now I got to send my, so that's it for me. It's not that I think generally private schools are better than public schools or there's superior in other ways.
Well, they're better for that reason. I mean, I have no idea what private school that he will go to. But when it gets to that point, to your point about, if my son's into robotics, there's a certain school here that's known for that. If my son's into art, there's a school for that. Right. If they have an incredible athletic department, there's a school, and I can pick that. I can go, man, son, you fucking love doing this. I love that I can send you to a school that's even better than everybody else in this area.
And private schools are very receptive too because they're private. So if I have an issue or I want to make a suggestion and I go and I talk to the principal, they're very receptive. I have dealt firsthand with public school. I have a lot of family members. My mom is also a public school teacher. I've went through the public school system. I have siblings in it. I had clients whose kids were in it. I had a client whose child was in public school and it wasn't working for them. And I actually went because I trained this kid. So I had to go and talk to the bureaucracy of getting this kid to change class. And it was a fucking nightmare. Yeah. You can't even, it's like the DMV. Where you're like, I can't believe that this bureaucracy exists. This is insane. I forgot there was one school district where this one woman got elected to be the in charge of it all, and she went into this warehouse that the school was storing things and found the kids didn't have books or pencils, so the teachers had to pay for them out of pocket. She goes to a warehouse where the school forgot that they had stored a bunch of books and pencils, and it's just a completely inefficient system, so that's why I want the choice. Yeah. I just want to be able to choose. And in public schools, unfortunately, they don't give you that. I have to move if I want to choose, and that doesn't always work. So
you guys make a lot of sense. My kids are in public school. I just got lucky, man. I mean, it's one of the best in California in terms of ratings, and the community aspect is bar none. My kids specifically have not revealed any very specific skill that they're trying to work towards, or something that a public or a private school would foster more of an intensified curriculum towards. So for me, it's a matter of like what they have is very rich and community centric, and all the parents are there constantly on campus.
That's great.
And they all contribute to, if there's a problem with like a deficiency in books, everybody pays for it in the community. This
is one of the perks of sometimes being in a smaller type
it's
town.
It's smaller.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
I grew up the same way. I grew up in a town where there was one high school. So
there tends to be way more.
So everybody gave a fuck about that high school.
It's the only gives a fuck,
because even the rich kids were there, the poor kids were there. All the kids were there. It was the only school, the only option that you. So even the nice neighborhoods and the poor neighborhoods are all going. Yeah. So everybody bands together to make sure that the kids.
But
are
if there's shenanigans, like in the current climate of what's going on in the world, like if there's like certain things being taught and like sex education like changes and like all these things radically come in based off political agendas and whatnot, boink. I'm out.
Yeah. And you're not going to be able, because you won't have much say.
Yeah. You won't.
I will say this about education. I think of all the things that we can invest in, and I'm talking from the state, education seems to have a decent return. We tend to be super inefficient with, government-run programs, but education's got a good return. So I do support public education. I just think we need more choice. And now that being said, education is going to change radically whether we like it or not. It's the information has become so decentralized.
I might unschool mine like Ben Greenfield.
Dude, it's out there and it's all free.
That's an option now. It's crazy.
It is. I mean, you could watch videos and learn things online and have access to things for free. And tech is changing so quickly that it's almost becoming obsolete to go and take a a structured, program anyway. It's better off to go real specialized anyway. So I think in 15, 20 years, this is going to be an interesting conversation. I think education is going to be in as little as 2 decades, in my opinion. And with that, go to mindpumpfree.com and download some of our guides. They cost nothing, and we got a ton on there. They're all free. You can also find all of us on Instagram. You can find Justin at Mind Pump Justin. You can find me at Mind Pump Sal and Adam at Mind Pump Adam.